The wind howled over the barren plains of Telmore 4, a half-terraformed world forgotten by most trade routes. The storm rolled like a sea of dust and static, battering against the metal walls of Jace Arden's outpost home. He stood by the window, watching orange lightning lick across the horizon. The power flickered once, twice, and then steadied. He sighed. "Another quiet night," he muttered, voice echoing in the empty house. Jace had lived alone for 3 years since his freighter crew had been disbanded after a failed mining operation. The others had left for busier worlds. He'd stayed behind, partly out of stubbornness, partly because there was nowhere else he wanted to go. He repaired calm towers and sold scrap. Life was predictable, quiet, until a knock came. It was faint, nearly lost in the roar of the wind, but unmistakable, a dull, rhythmic thud on the metal hatch. Jace frowned. Nobody traveled in this weather. He pulled on his coat, grabbed his pulse rifle just in case, and opened the door. A gust of dust blasted his face, and through the swirl of orange grit stood 3 figures, 2 small, 1 hunched. They were drenched in storm dust, cloaked in thin, tattered shawls. The tallest, a girl with luminous violet eyes and faint silver lines along her cheeks, staggered forward, her hand raised weakly. "Please," she rasped, "help us. Our shuttle crashed in the ridge." Jace's instincts screamed caution, but one look at her face silenced them. Behind her, another girl clutched a frail, trembling elderly figure whose grayish skin shimmered faintly with bioluminescent freckles. Alien, yes, but not threatening. The younger one's eyes were wide and frightened. "Get inside," Jace said quickly, pulling them through the hatch. He sealed the door against the wind and turned. The 3 collapsed near the heater. Their clothes were soaked with sand and frost. Jace grabbed a thermal blanket and wrapped the elder first. She coughed weakly, her chest rattling. The 2 girls pressed close to her, panic flickering in their eyes. "Easy," Jace said, kneeling. "You're safe now." "I'm Jace." "What happened?" The older girl took a moment to steady her breathing. "I'm Lyra. This is my sister, Tessa. Our grandmother, her name is Meryl. We were heading to the inner colonies. She's sick, very sick. The ship's engine failed during the storm. We barely made it out." Jace scanned the grandmother with his med scanner. Her vitals were weak, oxygen low, internal infection spreading. Alien biology, but recognizable enough for basic care. "She needs warmth, fluids, and rest. I can try to help, but my medkit's limited." Lyra's hand trembled as she clasped his. "Anything you can do, please." Jace nodded and set to work. He injected a stabilizer, wrapped Meryl in warming sheets, and fed her gentle oxygen through a patch adapter. The girls watched him in silence, their strange eyes glinting with a mix of fear and hope. When he was done, he looked up. "She'll make it through the night if we're lucky. I've got spare quarters down the hall. You can wash and rest." Lyra hesitated. "You would do this for strangers?" Jace gave a half-smile. "You're not strangers anymore. You're guests." Hours later, the storm had faded to a whisper. The fire crackled in the hearth, an old Earth habit Jace had kept even on alien soil. He found himself staring across the table at Lyra, who sat quietly sipping rehydrated tea. The glow from the fire made her silver facial lines shimmer faintly, marking her as something both alien and beautiful. "Your people," Jace said after a while. "You're from Lasara, right? I've met a few on trade routes." Lyra nodded. "Yes. The Lysaran colonies were hit by famine. We were traveling to seek asylum on Vesper Prime. But grandmother's illness slowed us down. When the engine failed, we thought it was the end." Tessa sat curled on the couch, her large eyes studying Jace shyly. "You fixed the heater," she said softly. You even gave us your blankets. Why? Jace shrugged. Because it's what humans do when someone's freezing to death on their doorstep. Lyra smiled faintly. Your kind is rarer than you think. He chuckled, but her words lingered. By morning, sunlight poured weakly through the haze. Meryl's breathing had steadied, and her color returned slightly. Jace was at the table cooking a modest breakfast, nutrient pancakes and hot synth coffee. He wasn't expecting company, but it felt strangely natural now. Lyra entered quietly, carrying her grandmother's pulse monitor. Her vitals are stronger, she said softly. You saved her life. Jace waved her gratitude off. Just did what anyone should. Not anyone, she replied. We called for help on the comm before the storm. No one answered. Jace looked at her. Well, maybe I was the only fool within range. She smiled again, warmer this time. Then I'm glad you were. They ate together, awkward but comfortable. Tessa laughed when Jace burned the last pancake, and for the first time in years, his home felt alive. Later that day, while Jace worked on salvaging parts from their crashed shuttle, Lyra joined him. She rolled up her sleeves, revealing faint bioluminescent veins under her skin. I can help, she said. I used to repair engines before the famine. They worked side by side, trading quiet jokes. She was fast, clever, and fearless around live circuits. At one point, a capacitor sparked and she instinctively shielded him, taking the shock herself. Jace caught her before she fell. You all right? He asked, worried. She nodded, wincing. You humans always jump back from danger. We Lysserans face it. Jace smirked. Guess we make a good team, then. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, unspoken but undeniable. That night, the grandmother awoke. Her voice was frail but clear. Human, she whispered when Jace entered. You have a kind soul. I see it. Jace knelt beside her bed. I just helped where I could. She smiled faintly. The universe is full of cold stars. Rare are the ones that still burn with warmth. He didn't know what to say, so he just held her hand until she drifted back to sleep. When he stepped outside, Lyra was waiting by the railing, the wind brushing through her pale hair. She's resting, he said. Lyra turned to him, eyes bright. When we leave tomorrow, I'll make sure the council knows what you did. You'll be honored. Jace looked out at the endless plain. I don't want honors. Just maybe come back someday. This place gets quiet. She studied him for a long moment. Maybe we will. But fate had other plans. In the dead of night, the power grid surged, then failed. Jace jumped awake to the alarm. Outside, a ship had landed, its engines whining. He ran to the door and saw dark figures moving through the dust, armed scavengers. Lyra, Tessa, he shouted. They burst from their rooms, eyes wide with fear. They tracked our beacon, Lyra cried. They'll take us, sell us. Jace didn't hesitate. He grabbed his rifle, slammed the controls, and sealed the outpost doors. Get your grandmother behind the generator room. Go. The scavengers began pounding on the metal hatch, their voices cruel and eager. Jace positioned himself near the window slit and fired a warning shot. Back off. They fired back. The room shook. Jace ducked, breathing hard. He'd fought pirates before, but this time wasn't just survival, it was to protect them. Lyra appeared beside him, wielding a plasma torch. I'll help. He stared at her. You'll get killed. Better that than lose everything again. Together, they fought through the chaos. Jace's steady aim, Lyra's precise strikes. Sparks and dust filled the air. At last, the scavengers retreated, dragging their wounded with them into the storm. Silence fell. Jace slumped against the wall, bleeding from a graze on his shoulder. Lyra knelt beside him, trembling. You could have died. He smiled weakly. Worth it. She pressed her hand to his wound, her skin glowing faintly as her healing enzymes worked. You foolish human. Yeah, he said. But I think you like that. Her laugh broke the tension, and she rested her forehead against his for a brief, perfect moment. By dawn, the scavengers were gone. The shuttle was repaired enough for travel. Meryl, though still weak, insisted on walking to thank him herself. You gave us a future, Jace Arden, she said softly. And in return, I give you a promise. When your heart grows lonely again, follow the light in the sky. We will guide you home. Lyra lingered last, standing by the ramp. You changed our lives, she said. Jace looked at her, the rising sun painting her silver lines gold. Funny. You changed mine first. She reached out, touching his hand. We'll meet again. Then she was gone, and the shuttle rose into the morning sky, leaving a trail of pale blue fire. Jace stood there long after it vanished, the wind quiet around him. For years, his life had been empty silence. Now, for the first time, it was filled with purpose, with warmth, with something that felt dangerously like hope. And that night, when the stars came out, he swore one of them shimmered brighter than the rest, violet and silver, like her eyes.